Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About Human Rights, the show in which we discuss all things related to human rights. I'm your host, John Allender, and I'm part of the California chapter of Youth for Human Rights International. Youth for Human Rights International's purpose is to enlighten and educate people around the world on what their human rights are, with specific focus on the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And with this education to enable and inspire the youth of today as our leaders of tomorrow to stand up and secure those rights for themselves and all people on earth. For each show, we like to take up one right and try to broaden your understanding of how this right is important to you and your loved ones. For today's show, we will be looking at the human right number 29. Everyone has duties to the community I'll give that to you again. Everyone has duties to the community in which alone the free and full development of his personality is possible. 2, in the exercise of his rights and freedoms, everyone shall be subject only to such limitations as are determined by law solely for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others and of meeting the just requirements of morality, public order, and the general welfare in a democratic society. 3, these rights and freedoms may in no case be exercised contrary to the purpose and principles of the United Nations.
Good morning. I'm here to read you your rights.
My what?
We are all free and equal. Don't discriminate. You have the right to life.
You have the right to life and to live in freedom and safety.
You have a right to education. You have a right to your own things.
You have the right to social security. You have the right to play.
You have the right to democracy. You have the right to asylum.
You have the right to take responsibility.
And no one
and nobody can take these rights and freedoms away from you.
Why are you doing this?
You have a right to know.
Let's examine these ideas a little more closely. Human right number 29 says we have a duty to other people and we should protect their rights and their freedoms. It says duty. A duty is more than a request. A duty is a personal commitment to another person, group, or organization. It is something that compels us to act towards a given purpose. Other people need your help. They need your assistance, they need your advice, and they need your friendship. But above all of this, they need you to watch out for them and ensure that they have their human rights intact. This is no small job, and not a job that just can be done by one person. And it isn't good enough that they have heard about human rights in some far distant place. They need to know and experience these rights where they are living right now, where they are working, and where they are going to school. It's a special type of person who cares enough about another person to ensure that their rights are intact. This person is a cut above the average guy. They are not so self-centered that they are just fixated on their own situation. They're aware of others and how they are doing, and they are trying to be effective in helping them improve. The only way you can be that kind of a person who is ensuring others' rights are intact, is to be as aware as possible, as attentive as possible, and to be as educated about human rights as you can be. And you will need help. This is a big job. Many parts of the world have just about given up on human rights today, or so it seems. It's just the survival of the fittest, or who has a bigger gun. But things don't have to be that way. Things can be reasoned out. The environment can be calm. There is freedom and freedom of thought, and there is a right to pursue your own goals and dreams. There is equality and justice. These things do exist, but mankind and womankind need to choose to put them there. Education about human rights is a broad number Education about human rights to a broad number of people is one of the keys that brings all of us our rights. Education and open discussion about the nuances of each right is also important. Too often, abuses occur right in front of our otherwise decent and individual friends, and they do nothing. Why? More than likely, not being educated on the subject of human rights, they just cannot see it for what it is. The best way to take away others' rights is to not provide any education about their human rights, not enlighten them about their freedoms and liberties. It is an oddity, maybe, that you have to educate a person towards his rights and that they are not known naturally. Maybe it's because as a child they needed to be controlled in a severe manner so that they didn't harm themselves. But once they are 10 to 12 years old, they need to be taught what their human rights are, and they need to continue to be taught for a number of years after that until every young adult can observe and identify where anyone's human rights are being violated. With this kind of education occurring, human rights can become a fact. With you watching out for your neighbor's rights and your neighbors watching out for your rights, you can become a permanent fixture in our lives. My guest today is Barry Simon, past president of UNA USA Southern California Division. Welcome, Barry.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing?
Doing great. It's an honor and privilege to be with you today.
Okay, that's fantastic. So what is UNA?
UNA is the United Nations Association. So it's abbreviated UNA USA.
Okay.
And the UNA has chapters all across the country. In fact, in 49 of 50 states, there's UNA chapter or chapters.
All right.
There's 12 chapters just in Southern California of the community chapters. And there's also campus chapters on many college campuses across the country. And the UNA also supports the Model UN programs in high school and colleges across the country.
All right.
The UNA has been around since the creation of the UN, basically. Prior to the UN, there was the League of Nations.
Right.
And there were community chapters that worked to educate people in the community about the work of the League of Nations.
Now, the League of Nations, that started like in 1911 or right after the First World War or something like that?
Right. It started
Okay.
around right after the war, 1920, 1921, right in that area.
Right.
And when it disbanded, when the UN was created in 1945, 80 years ago this June, Eleanor Roosevelt worked with a number of people to evolve the community chapters of League of Nations chapters into the United Nations Association chapters.
Okay, great.
So there's 12 of those chapters throughout Southern California and chapters throughout the United States. There's also something called WFUNA, which is the World Federation of United Nations Associations. So as far as I know, every member state of the UN might have at least one chapter in their country of the UN Association.
Oh, really?
And the UN Association is not part of the UN, never was part of, never was funded by, or paid, or supported financially by the UN.
Right.
But it does work to advocate on behalf of the important work of the UN.
Do you send people to the UN to advocate in the UN for certain things?
We have an annual meeting every February in the General Assembly Hall of the UN.
Oh, really?
We, due to some constraints at the UN this February and budgetary issues, the February meeting was postponed until next February, but for 15 years I've gone to the UN with about 500 other UNAers around the country to be in the General Assembly Hall, be spoken to and interact with everybody from the Secretary General Guterres to people that head up the peacekeeping missions, to people that handle food distribution in areas where food scarcity or hunger is rampant, and to have other speakers to educate us so we can go back to our communities and educate our community about the work of the UN.
Okay, great. And then what happens in the community locally when you come back?
Yeah. Well, when we come back, we invite all the chapters that had representatives at the UN to add into their newsletter some comments about that for their community. And the chapters might have anywhere from 20 to 300 members.
Okay.
And they'll do events with speakers on some of those same topics.
Right.
Here in Southern California, we have the second largest consular corps of any city in the country. So there's always an opportunity to have a consul general from one of the consulates come and speak, plus numerous professors to come to speak about human rights, how, especially nowadays in this current environment, how human rights are being trampled, whether you're talking about food availability to people, and some people are getting plenty of food, some people aren't getting any.
Right.
Why aren't the ones that aren't getting any, why aren't they getting any?
Isn't that a mystery?
Yeah. and
Not from the lack of ability to grow it, that's for sure.
there's plenty of food on the planet.
Right.
There's no need for anybody to go to bed hungry.
Right.
And so it's a matter of distribution systems and corruption and trying to clean up those things. So one of the Sustainable Development Goals, of which there's 17, this pin represents the 17 Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay, great.
And so every one of those goals, whether it be eliminating hunger, eliminating poverty, standing for strong institutions and civil rights, all of them, all 17 in one way or another, are impacted by civil rights.
Right.
And human rights.
Right.
And how are human rights being violated today, with people being sent off to countries willy-nilly?
Right.
People being marginalized.
Right.
In numerous countries. And this is not a political conversation or a political stand.
No, it's not.
But
It's
just
about
part of the
human rights.
reality of the this day and age.
No, if we didn't have this kind of conversation, if we didn't need to have this kind of conversation, we wouldn't have any problems to talk about.
Exactly.
Right? If human rights just existed.
That's right.
And it's really true that you can take almost any issue and trace it down to the human right that is being eliminated that creates that problem. And that's always been fascinating to me as I've studied the subject. It's not that feeding somebody doesn't need to be done, because it does need to be done, but it is an aspect of human rights.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Why are you denying them food? Why would you not allow the food to go through?
Well, even exactly. There's issues going on in the world right now of populations that are being denied access to food and being, in essence, being starved.
Right.
And this is a crime. Now, the 30 in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, there's 30 human rights listed, right? You mentioned the number 29, which is a great one because it really focuses on our individual duty and responsibility to, perhaps I would just say, not just go along.
Right.
But if you experience some aspect of human rights where your human rights or others that you know of are being marginalized, are being diminished in any way, you have a duty, a responsibility. It's actually a patriotic duty to stand up for that right. Those rights are not etched in stone. They're not laws. Mm-hmm. And the UN doesn't have any enforcement ability. Doesn't have an army. It can't make a country, ours or any others, be a better global citizen.
No, that's a problem. Not that I want the UN to have an army, but it's something it's observably true that people don't grant the UN the rights it deserves, or that we wanted it to have when we created it. That it could say, no, that's wrong. That's bad behavior. Don't do that. Right. Right.
And whenever you poll people about the UN, is the UN worth it? Is the UN effective? And I did that. I went to outside of the gates of Georgetown University a couple of years ago and interviewed people. Does the UN matter? Uh-huh. And in every poll, whether those conversations or any other poll, high marks for the UN.
Really?
High marks.
Wow.
Over 70%. So the UN is a necessary body. But the UN can't, again, force a country or to be good citizens. Some people don't like part of the structure of the UN, where every country, many of the departments or agencies of the UN operate with a leader that's chosen as, countries can be a leader of an organization for some period of time.
Right.
And then another country becomes the leader. So in fairness to all the countries, sometimes a country that is a blatant violator of any number of human rights might be leading the Human Rights Commission.
Right.
And so it's like, well, how could they let that happen?
Right. There was an incident, I guess, a couple of years ago where our ambassador from the U.S. made a big noise about that.
Yeah.
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 You know, and you know, we like to think that we're the best in observing all these rights here in the U.S.
We'd like to think
We'd
that.
like to think that. We'd like to be told. We are told that. We'd like to think that that's valid. But you know, we have our issues here as well.
Right.
No question.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting point on education of human rights, and this is kind of our push with Youth for Human Rights, is that as people become more aware of human rights, then their tolerance for people not executing forward on human rights, or within their community, that's where it starts. It starts in your family, then it goes out to your community, to your school, to your town, and pushes out from there. The idea that it's going to come from the UN and push down is not serious.
No,
it starts with the individual, and that's time consuming.
But that's the grassroots, and that's
Right.
where the chapters come into play.
Yeah.
And that's where that area of duty and responsibility really begin to show up.
Right.
You know, as you mentioned, you know, the program on Youth for Human Rights, when I discovered that, I think that's just such gold, because there's an expression, tell me something you don't know that you don't know.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't.
You can't, no.
But if you know about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, if you know about these 30 rights, well, for one thing, then you begin to suddenly notice all the places where human rights are being violated.
Right. What's just also very interesting about, as I've worked in this subject, you have this one little sentence that says a human right, but what does that mean?
It's all
right?
subject to interpretation.
It's a very expansive concept. It's nice that they can break it down to a little sentence, but that doesn't say it all. It's like add water and it becomes the size of Texas, because it's a bit. Every one of these things are a big subject and have a lot to do with many different aspects of your life. I mean, schools would benefit rather than attacking bullying, promoting human rights, because bullying is just a violation of human rights. That's all it is. And
Absolutely.
you have this higher authority demanding human rights, the United Nations, the country at all, the country in complete, rather than just some teacher saying you're bullying somebody or somebody's parent, right? It's a much better story. It's a much better conversation. And that's what I like about it all. I think you can compact it down to that one sentence, but it's in every aspect of our lives.
Well, in terms of trying to educate people on that very point,
Right.
and how important it is for there to be expanded understanding of these areas, is why the UN Association exists, to educate people in the community, and how we in Southern California have taken that into creating an annual West Coast Global Forum that we have done for 14 years.
Yeah, you were telling me about this. You have an event coming up.
And we have events coming up. We have the 80th anniversary of the event coming up. It'll be
Right.
celebrated nationwide by by pretty much all chapters. In particular, in San Francisco in June, when it was initially created, and then it was signed on and became official at the UN in October of 1945. And so that there'll be events around the country both in June and in October. In December 10th, every chapter pretty much in the country does a celebration of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
And when what's the celebration? I mean, what do they get around, have a barbecue?
Yeah, no, it's basically speakers, lectures. There was actually sometimes there was a great Pasadena City College did a beautiful poster exhibit of the 30 human rights.
Oh, wow.
And it was, these kids put together some beautiful posters that represented each of the human rights. And then we have a big event coming up on International Day of Peace. It'll be our 3rd annual Concert for Peace, From Harm to Harmony, coming up on September 21st.
From Harms to Harmony.
And
Beautiful.
that will be live streamed. It'll be a live event in downtown LA, along with other videos submitted from around the world. And it will then be globally streamed that afternoon on September 21st around the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what kind of, like, how many people belong to your organization in Los Angeles?
In Los Angeles, there's about, between the 12 chapters, close to a little over 2,000 members throughout Southern California, about 20,000 members in the country.
Okay, and what age group are they mainly?
When I came on board 20 years ago, I was one of the younger people. Okay. I've become one of the older people, and
Nature's way.
Plus, the organization has done a really great job in attracting more and more youth. So currently, probably close to half of the membership is under 25.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's good news, because that's, I mean, under 25 is under 35 in a blink of the eye.
Yeah, and you know, where do kids learn without officially studying human rights? Where do they learn about how to treat people?
Should be taught in every high school. It absolutely should be taught in every high school, because you're not moralizing, you're not religionizing anything. It's just, it's basically a moral code when you look at it. It's a moral code. It's somewhere to live by. It doesn't say don't steal or something like that, but it basically does if you really look at it and understand it, right?
Yeah, you could boil it down to the golden rule.
Right.
Treat other people the way you'd want to be treated.
Right.
That's kind of how I was raised.
Sure.
And you know, I don't know if they still even use that expression in elementary schools, but treat other people the way you'd want to be treated. Think of if everyone. I used to think that if everybody had one tattoo, and that tattoo being their name on their forehead, and people go around the world calling each other by their name.
Yeah.
Just that would have us all getting along better.
It's just being polite.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Because I don't believe that anybody's born with hate. I don't believe anybody's born racist or prejudiced. We all have them to some degree of prejudice to some extent. But we aren't really born that. So they're getting it somehow or other in their homes when they're being raised. So the sooner you can educate children about these rights and about what they can and can't do, or you know, what's available to them as a human being, then you've got a whole generation that can begin to shift things.
Well, you know, it was a great idea what Youth for Human Rights did, is what they took the 30 different rights and they shortened them so they could be taught in grammar school. So they're not using the terminology and concepts that they couldn't easily grasp, right? And then the videos, so you saw one of them today, and there's obviously 30 of them, but it just communicates so much more broadly and so much more quicker to the kids. And that's so important if they can just learn that, understand that it's there's a very interesting word in all this, and it's inalienable. Ever look up, understand what inalienable is? It cannot be removed. That's the definition of inalienable.
Right.
You cannot separate it out. It's like a basic ingredient in the universe, and your rights are inalienable. No one.
Powerful word.
Powerful word. I mean, it's something to really understand.
It's great to look up words like that and realize that we use them all the time, but do we really know what they mean?
Right.
And that's really terrific.
So now tell me some more about UNA and what you guys are doing and some of your successes.
Well, some of the things that I've done through the UN Association and in related areas was a program called Venting Events. So I did a program called Venting Events in the public for several years, where people came together to express their views on issues of the day, and hopefully leaving feeling a little better, even though nothing was really resolved.
Right.
But they got to be heard and respected and appreciated for their point of view. And I think when we have this kind of a conversation, if I think of it from, it's one thing to know the human rights, but how do I be those things?
Sure.
So when I thought about being here today, I came up with an acronym. So I just said, like, to be real. So what does that mean? One, reach out.
Okay.
Educate yourself and others. Allow for others' points of view, and what was my fourth one? And lead. Be a leader.
Okay. So
reach out, educate yourself, allow for others' points of view, and be a leader.
Well, you know, it's
just be real.
It's a gutsy thing to do to ask people to come out and vent. That would be a gutsy thing to do. How did it go? I mean, what was the result?
It was great. CNN came and covered it one evening for
Did they really?
about that, and it wasn't like a Jerry Springer, throw your chairs kind of thing, or here's so and so's fourth affair, or whatever that kind of craziness. But no, it was really an opportunity for people, to come together, and people would express things. We did one. There used to be something called the Season for Nonviolence, which was a 64-day period focusing on human rights. There was these 64 days between the birthday of Martin Luther King and the birthday or death of Gandhi. So these 64 days. And I did a venting event during that 64 days several years ago. And it was in the newspaper, in the calendar section of the newspaper. This, my middle name is Wayne, Barry Wayne's venting event on Friday at this particular coffee house. And we would tape it and edit it into a half-an-hour TV show. So one gentleman shows up, happens to be a former vice president for the NRA, National Rifle Association. Another gentleman shows up and happens to sit right next to him. That guy was a pacifist priest. So here you had the vice president of the NRA sitting next to a pacifist priest. So they definitely had different opinions about guns and gun control and gun safety and how gun use violates millions of people's human rights every day. And just in this country, or the school shootings that take place. It's an embarrassment. It's disgusting. It shouldn't be happening. But it just gives you an idea in terms of answering the question. People came. It was done respectfully. It was done with levity.
Right.
Okay. So it wasn't like a serious conversation. It really was an opportunity for people to be heard.
Right.
And express what's there for them.
Well, what's interesting about that is a lot of times when people just cannot say what they want to say for whatever, because social reasons or whatever, they can never change their mind. Right. And when they, I find it with myself, when you finally hear what you have to say, go, well, maybe that wasn't such a great idea. But you need to be with people who have tolerance.
Right.
They got to be able to tolerate a different point of view.
That's right.
Yeah. There's a wonderful book written in the 1920s called Tolerance, and it's the history of tolerance. And it just shows you that, no ifs, ands, or buts, society expanded tremendously when there was tolerance. And what was most interesting about that, there wasn't one culture that didn't have tolerance for some time, and then it exploded out, culturally, and then eventually it lost its tolerance and collapsed. Whether it was Rome, whether it was Baghdad, whether it was Greece. It is tolerance, and then crushed back in.
The idea of human rights actually came out of
Persia.
2,500 years ago.
Yeah.
And so it's not a new thing.
No. We have a great video on it. The history of human rights, one of our videos.
And by the way, those Youth for Human Rights videos are awesome. They are great. And if you haven't seen them, go to the website and check them out, because they really are great. Really well done.
Yeah, we're very happy with them, and they get played a lot. You see them in airports occasionally, which is always fun. Because that's what they're for. They're PSAs. It's like, the local station could flip them on and say, we've had some bullying. Let's do one that shows anti-bullying.
Well,
right?
One of the other programs, yes, bullying, is just, running rampant. There seems to be some kind of approval for bullying that got into our society somehow.
Right.
And it's just it's a shame. Any kid who's been bullied knows the emotional impact of having been bullied, and the years of recovery that, if ever, from those incidents, that they're very lingering decisions that a child makes when they've been bullied as an 8 or 10-year-old, for example.
Right.
They're no good. They can't speak up, and those traits
or
live with them forever.
Or they mimic the bully.
Or they become more violent, and
Right.
other ways to act out. In part of the UN Association's work, and part of a project that I took on out of that also, was a project called Conversations for Peace. And there's 15 videos about that on the website. I'm a Jewish kid from Portland, Oregon.
Right.
And I just got sick of my entire life seeing strife in the Middle East.
Okay.
So I went to Israel and began to interview people. And as soon as I told some people that I was doing that, I began getting calls from people. Do you want to interview this person? Do you want to interview this person? So I ended up interviewing a Palestinian lawyer in the South, a woman that is involved with a personal growth and development organization that I'm very familiar with. She ran their office, a Palestinian Muslim woman ran their office in Tel Aviv. I interviewed her.
Right.
I interviewed the mayor of Haifa. I interviewed a business coach and some other people on the street. Same question for everybody. What would be possible if everybody could get along?
Right.
And none of them, Muslim, Jewish, Arab, Palestinian, no matter what population, none of them could speculate on what that would make available.
Oh, really?
Because they've never known it.
Hopeless.
It's been at this situation for 80 years or longer.
Right.
Certainly. And, someone wants to say, who is there first? I say, who cares? You're all there now.
Right.
We're all children of the same.
You all want to eat. You all want to drive a car.
Yeah, get over it. Stop it. Stop the hate.
It is an interesting.
If you respect each other's human rights, if you just respected each other's rights the way you'd want to be respected,
Right.
there could be so much more joy and celebration and beauty.
Yeah. So what kind of results have you gotten in Los Angeles area?
Well, it's hard to measure results when
It
you're
is.
talking
Well,
about
it
some
is,
of these
and I do
areas.
understand that.
We've increased membership.
That's a result.
We've increased chapters. We have a new chapter out in Palm Springs. We have a growing Santa Barbara chapter that's been doing great. We have a new chapter in Long Beach. So we've increased our chapters. We've increased visibility in the communities. We've partnered with Rotary in many cases with events and other projects, and Rotary's well known in the area, cross country.
So the Rotary clubs get involved.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. And that's a staple in every city.
Right, exactly. And everybody's heard of Rotary, like you
Right.
say. So, there's a new Rotary chapter in Ukraine. So we're trying to raise some money to support the Rotary chapter in Ukraine to be of assistance to the people that are suffering there.
Really?
Yeah, and so there's great opportunities to grow the membership. There's and because no chapter is like just etched in stone as we do it this way, we do it this way, they're all quite open to new members bring new ideas on how can we do a better job.
Right.
I'm a regional representative to the National Council, so part of my role as a regional representative and past president of this region is to act as a liaison between the chapters and national, and how can national be of more service, how can we as regional reps be of more value to the chapters that we're working with, so that there can be more members, more people educating people in the community, more events that attract more people,
right,
and like that. So we don't do a $500 a plate gala every year, but we might do a $25 or $50 luncheon event or something like that, and to try to get some people out and hear our story.
And do you give any lectures at colleges or anything like that? Do you guys do anything in colleges?
We certainly do. We have members at many colleges. Some of the professors that run that advise some of the Model UN programs at colleges. We've had plus every school, USC, UCLA, et cetera, that have their international relations departments that are very diversified and deep and broad now.
Well, I have a question. These, do they teach the human rights from the UN in those schools?
Not specifically from the UN, but
right.
the curriculum of some of those departments would definitely include, in the area of international relations and international other international areas, that they would definitely be including, I'm sure,
right.
aspects of human rights. Do they do it specifically in conjunction with the UN or in partnership?
Well, I meant more like this directly. This is what the UN says. You should know this because this is, it hasn't been even ratified.
I'm sure the UN has. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights has been signed on to by about 140 of the 190 countries that
right.
make up the UN. And again, they sign on to it.
And the United States is not one of them.
That's correct.
That is obscene.
Well, no. Actually, the United States was one of the first ones that signed on to its creation. But like many other aspects of the Declaration, and like many other treaties, the one on the Convention Against Violence on Women,
right?
I think it's abbreviated called CEDAW, has been signed on to by every country except two, Yemen and the U.S.
Oh, no.
And it's kind of, it's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
And, you
Is
know,
that
there,
because it
there
needs to be
does-
ratified in the Congress? Is that why?
It needs to be ratified in Congress, and because apparently in that convention there's something to do with abortion, and as a result, Congress has not been willing to even take it up for a vote.
Okay.
So, you know, and there's views in the world about the U.S. as kind of some kind of a little bit of a bully, a little bit of an arrogant country.
No doubt.
I love being an American. I'm thankful that I live here.
Yeah.
And born and raised, but you know, we have our faults.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, something that is one of the biggest things that any human being can do is acknowledge their faults.
Sure.
Acknowledge when you're
I think the
you
U.S.
made a
is good
mistake.
at that. I think we're pretty good at that.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
acknowledging our faults, and you know, but
Yeah.
it's a huge country, and it's a very well communicated country. So there's a lot of different points of view. So
Yes.
sometimes it's hard to get, if those subjects are too specific, it's hard to get things like that agreed upon.
Right.
Right.
It's like moving a submarine in a bathtub.
Yeah, that's right. It's not going to happen.
Right.
That's right.
Right. But there's so much work going on, whether it be the Youth for Human Rights program and that work, whether it be the organization putting this project together today that we're taping, human rights organizations around the country, around the world. They're all strapped for money, of course.
Of course.
And so, you know, you can make your gifts to them, and it's put to good use. Most of them have very good ratings, and be sure to check them out on the internet before
Right.
you make a pledge.
Right.
But there are so many areas of need in the world, and whether it be supporting the Hunger Project or supporting other NGOs that are doing work.
Doctors Without Borders.
Doctors Without Borders. The
So
program
many.
called
I interviewed a woman recently who does care for people that have cancer, and she just cares. She helps the family, not with the medical, but with how do you survive this while it's going on, and she
Yeah.
just brings the community together to help that individual's family survive the taxing aspect of taking care of somebody who has cancer.
Right.
It was really an amazing story.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's so many people that do so many fantastic
There's
things.
great organizations that do that. I co-facilitated a bereavement group for a couple of years. An organization similar to the one similar to what it sounds like the one you're describing, was doing for people with terminal illness.
Yeah, Here to
and their
Serve
families.
is her
Here to
company.
Serve, yeah,
fantastic company. So what is your favorite human right?
Well, my favorite human right is just the very first one, the right to equality.
Yeah.
And to me, that encompasses everything. I don't care if you're gay, straight, or mixed, or whatever you consider yourself. Pronouns or no pronouns, it doesn't matter to me. But just equality. Equality in terms of fair education for all people. Equality in terms of reasonable housing, health care available, food, the basics, food and shelter.
Sure.
I mean, these should be basic rights. And so just that whole world of equality, fairness,
Fantastic.
treating people the way you'd want to be treated.
There you go. The golden rule.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Barry.
This has been extraordinary. Thank you very much.
All right. So it was great talking to you today and hearing your story. Well, that's our show for this week. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and learned something new about such an important topic. As I interview all these wonderful and different guests and look at how they have taken this idea of a universal human rights and employed it into their career or their hobby, I find it so inspiring. Then I wonder, what will you be doing with this information? How will you pass the message on? If you have an inspiring story, please let us know, and we will include it in our future shows. We have a wonderful set of videos in 17 different languages on the Youth for Human Rights International website that goes over each and every one of these rights. You can watch each one of these and learn so much about human rights and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by going to youthforhumanrightsinternational.org or YHRI.org. If you have your own video about human rights that you've created, we would love to see them. If you'd like to be a guest on our show or know someone whom you think we should have on our show, let us know at talkabouthumanrights@gmail.com. Please check out our social media platforms, and I hope to see you again in future shows. Thank you very much for watching. All right.